zooming. Ray, I was really hoping that you'd have like a crown on when you came on today.
Well, it's in the shop. It's getting fabricated right now. So.
It's getting fitted to the head.
Yeah,
Yeah, perfect.
I don't have a crown tailor at the moment.
He's waiting for the head to get back down to normal size before he gets the crown fitted.
Yeah, terrible.
He's the killer. He's the filler killer.
Well, yeah, it's a whole different look, Ray, coming on the show as like the guest of honor as opposed to one of the
Talking heads.
yeah, one of the talking heads, one of the people. So congratulations. That's a lot
Thank
of
you.
that's cool stuff. And it's interesting, I've been looking forward to talking to you because, it's not like you're nobody from no place who beats somebody. You're a really talented player who plays a lot and really understands the game. But still, for someone like me, the idea of someone being in somewhat uncharted territory is always kind of a fun. It's always interesting to me to see what the person was going through emotionally and mentally and keeping themselves in check and celebrating and trying not to get ahead of yourself and all those kind of things that get rolled into, I'm sure it just had to be like on hyper speed during a match like that. So, I would, tell us what you learned about yourself, what you learned about the process through getting there, through the match and beyond, because that's really interesting to me.
Yeah, I think I found myself kind of in a position where I'm learning in real time,
right,
or acclimating in real time to these new scenarios that you kind of train for mentally all the time, really. I kind of am somebody who's very in the self reflection, self awareness kind of model of things, and really try and always take inventory on where I'm at and what was the key point that needed to be adjusted in order to get 2 degrees shifted towards closer to being, let's say, fully actualized, right? And in that particular match, it's a culmination of a lot of prep work that towards the end of last year I started really feeling some kind of hints of really what I would consider world-class play coming up in myself. There was a tournament that I played in Miami, a memorial tournament where I really started kind of self play at a super high level. And then again, there was a tournament a couple weeks ago in Lantana and Plantation where I kind of felt really some high level play coming out. And then, at Derby, I really got settled after, my 3rd round win against Wolford. I really felt myself kind of locking in because I didn't train like, let's say, a lot of table time leading up to Derby. I kind of more took care of my mind and my body, a lot of kind of like just calming stuff, cold plunging and journaling and a lot of mental health stuff, and just kind of getting myself to a calm state. That for me was kind of what I felt was more necessary. And then I would hit balls and stuff and get ready. But once you're at Derby, you need to really start locking in. So after I beat Wolford, I finally got to that place where I was really clicking. And then with Josh, I felt like I had 3, phases of approach in that particular match. I started the match and I didn't really have time to really, assess what was going on. I got moved from a previous match to the match with Josh, and I was like, okay, I deserve to be here. We're gonna take our opportunities as we can when they come, and just kind of know that you belong on this table, and just try and be present. And I think the biggest thing was just trying to be present and not get too far ahead of myself and not really put too much extraneous pressure on myself to do anything that I haven't already been doing, which has just been playing really, really great pool.
It's interesting to me though, because as you're saying that, that's an awful lot to process while you're playing a match against the number 1 player in the world. So for me, I'm thinking it all sounds logical. It all sounds, right, proper. But if I have to think through all that while I'm trying to play a match
Yeah.
against a Josh Viller,
Mhm.
I don't know that my head wouldn't explode.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I
So how does it, is it something that just, is it that thought process where things just, go so fast in your mind that you're not even actually thinking about it, but you know what's happening?
Yeah, it's one of those things where, like, especially playing somebody like Josh, you get so few opportunities, really.
Right.
And the beginning of the match, we exchanged racks, and it was 2-2, and he had made two early misses that I think just his style of play, he wants to just get going, and running, and he really wants to beat you. He wants to beat you fast. He wants to really demoralize you. And when I saw the first two early misses, I'm like, I've won matches with less opportunities than that already. And so the mindset kind of shifted from, hey, you're here, you deserve to be here, to you might be the better player for this stretch of games. I'm
Right.
not saying that I'm the best player in the matchup long term, but I know for this stretch of match play, the standard that I've been putting out is really high. And so there's a confidence there that for these next 10 games, maybe I am the better player. And so then I kind of then it switched into, okay, let's impose yourself on this match and keep your errors to a minimum. And I took control of the middle of the match and got ahead 7-5 and put myself in a position where I was running out up 7-5. It's a race to 9. And so I got to the point where I started thinking, well, I'm going to run out and then break and run out and beat Josh Viller 9-5. And normally, whenever that happens, I'm really great about getting that thought and then coming back to, like,
Coming back to reality. Yeah.
I got to make this ball, right? Yeah. And that's the one crucial mistake that I would point to in that set that I didn't do. I kind of stayed in that spot, and then what happens after? And I missed a key ball that I should never miss, and it should have cost me maybe the set. Because against somebody like Josh, that's
Blood in
that's
the
a
water.
turning point.
That's
yeah.
Yeah.
So he doesn't need very much. So I know how these matches go because I've seen him do it enough times to other players that I thought, okay, well, I might get one more opportunity from here. And it came when I was down 8-7, and he leaked a safety and left me a piece of the 2 ball that basically I could only see the piece of the ball that would allow me to pocket it and get position to run out. And so it was a tough back cut. It was a quarter ball. It's a reference hit that I've worked on quite a bit. And I had to double check that, through that hit, I was clear of the ball he was trying to hide
Right.
me from. And literally the only amount of the ball that I could see was that. And I just
what you needed. Yeah.
Yeah, and got out. So
Yeah.
that was to force Hill. And then I finally got one little, fortunate roll towards the end there. But, I was making a lot of winning decisions, and not getting rewarded. So I feel like I had developed a little escrow in the account with the pool gods, and they smiled on me. And then, Josh was in a very awkward position, double hill, looking at an 8-ball that he could see but couldn't pocket directly. And I think he just made a mental error and took a losing decision. From there, trying to play off the left side of the 8, left me a shot, and I, got there. So
go ahead, Nate. I don't know if there's anything.
Well, the only thing that I really want to throw in is in a match that's mentally grinding. You're constantly over and over and over again forcing yourself to try to make winning decisions. That's pretty mentally draining, right? Take me through your mindset when he actually gave you the 9-ball. Was it a relief? Did everything just kind of come down from there? I mean,
there was I think we both knew that the match was over at that point, right? He had left a duck of a 9, and I played position to a big part of the table where I was, safe away from the rails and kind of straight in. And so it wasn't until after he kind of shook my hand and kind of like, conceded that I had this like huge emotional pop off, which before during the match when I had taken control, I thought to myself, I'm not gonna like allow my emotions to get high because, I had switched into the mindset now of like, let's impose ourselves and then let's go win the match. Then I impose myself and saying, then let's go win the match, And so I thought I'm going to win the match, shake his hand and move on. but that was before I missed that 7-ball, you know. And then when I missed the 7-ball, it kind of like stacked a lot of pressure, and really it was just me trying to be in the moment and breathe. You know, breathing was a big part of just the physical process of anchoring myself to the moment over and over again through the breath. And then once I got past the moment and realized that I'd won, then there was this huge like release, and there was a lot of people in the room, you know, watching and I guess rooting for me, because nobody else had really beaten Josh this weekend. You know, it's like
right. And anything.
He was on a tour de force, you know, just crushing everybody.
Yeah, he didn't lose at all in bank pool, right? And then he ended up losing twice in the one pocket, obviously, but third places, and he was undefeated, obviously, in the 9-ball up to that point. So yeah, he had basically lost 1 or 2 matches, and his least strong discipline.
Yeah, and that's the discipline where you expect him to be the most dominant, really. And but to me, it was just kind of this great moment because I was the last American left in the tournament, and it felt like I had a lot of support from people. When I tried to keep my brain so focused on just the table surface, I didn't look around at all. Just kind of like really tried to be present and in the moment, that when I came out and I saw the magnitude of how many people were around me and kind of cheering for me, it was quite a bit. You know, it was a lot. It was a lot of things to process at once. But.
Yeah,
well, I think Danny and BJ were still in at that time, at least.
Yeah,
and Chris Reinhold too, maybe.
I think Chris got eliminated round 9, maybe. So I think that put me into the last round as the last American, something like that.
Yeah.
Well, you tied with Danny Olsson and BJ Ujiri at 12.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Did Josh say anything to you at the end of the match other than just shake your hand?
No, he
kind of the shot that he missed.
Yeah, he shook my hand. I think he was more upset at with the decision he made than anything else, because he knew that was an opportunity to try and win the match, and he made the wrong choice. I think when he set up the kick, I think we both acknowledged that the kick was the only winning shot from that position. And even though it's a counterintuitive thing to, you can see the ball, you want to hit the ball direct, but you can't win doing anything else than kicking at the 8 direct in that position. So I think he was more upset at himself than anything else for choosing the wrong shot. But he was very gracious to me before the match, and he never, made me feel that he was contentious in any way towards me. So that was, he's a good
competitor. So the follow-up to that is, it's not the end of the tournament, and you've got to play again. And, you're at probably an emotional high for any tournament that you've probably ever played in.
Mm-hmm.
How do you take your cue then and go to the next table and not be completely like
checked out? Yeah. The big, that was probably the most challenging part of it, honestly, was getting, I would say, not being satisfied with that being enough. You know what I mean? And, I played Roland Garcia next, and I beat him last year in Michigan at a Predator event. And so I felt fine. I didn't really feel any pressure at all playing Roland, and I felt like I was the better player in that match. Although the challenge for me was constantly wrangling my brain back into the moment, because it kept wanting to
go back to the last match.
Go to this, you beat Josh, this whole thing. I had a brief video phone call right after the match, and that was an emotional thing, and I almost started crying right there. So I had to hey, I gotta hang up the phone. I gotta get back to business here. And I took an early break with Roland because there were 2 shots in that match that I took without intensity, without focus and intent to try and win the position, and I gave away two games because of them. And then the match was probably closer than it needed to be. By the end of the match, I'd kind of locked in again, and I was up 8-7 and breaking against Roland, and I broke dry, and then he had a cupcake out and he ran out, and then he broke double hill and really wobbled the ball in. He kind of was fortunate that the pocket was 4.5 inches, because it probably shouldn't have gone, but he ended up breaking and running out double hill to beat me. But I know, compared to how I've been playing the whole tournament, there was a little bit of a lack of intensity in that match for me that mentally I can reflect on. And I know that it comes from a little bit of a lack of a professional mindset about, it's an interesting thing, right? Where playing Josh, the whole focus becomes how do you win this one match, and then you win that match. But now you're in the context of a broader tournament where if you just stay playing that way, you can win the tournament. Right. But I wasn't mentally ready for that part of it. Right. After I was so all in on trying to beat Josh that afterwards I was kind of like, well, whatever happens from here happens, and whatever happened from there happened. I didn't really impose myself the same way. So I still played at a high standard. I was up 8-7 in breaking. If I make a ball on the break, I likely win that match, and it, I can settle myself. So I felt like if I ever needed a corner man or somebody there just to kind of to be like encouraging, help me get across that line, it was then, and then I could help regroup and see how deep I could really go.
So it's a lot of crossing the certain lines for the first time or getting to certain spots for the first time, and it's always that learning experience of, okay, now that I have done this and I've been here, I'll know how to handle this better next time, or that better next time, or the following match the next time. Is that kind of the way you try to look at it?
Yeah, I think now, like I mentioned on Dogging It last night, that I feel like now I've beaten the top player in the world. I've kind of given myself permission now to say, hey, we can put this together for a tournament, and it's time to go after and win a whole open tournament, a big pro event. So I think definitely this is like a landmark thing that I can kind of pitch my tent on, and have the confidence that I can beat anyone.
That goes into the the whole process that you're talking about too, of now that beating Josh Viller is great, but beating a Josh Viller like player 3 or 4 matches in a row becomes a whole different challenge.
Yeah.
Mentally, emotionally, physically, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I got a somewhat of a sense of that, really. I beat Wolford, 9-6 in round 3, and then I beat some other guy. I played a perfect set. The set after that, I beat a guy 9-1, and then I played Lucas, and I continued a really high form there, and I beat Lucas 9-4. So I was really kind of like in a place where I'd hit almost this meditative, posture, where I was just really focused on the moment and just kind of staying in my process and executing nicely, and not really worrying about anything else. I think for me, I've been searching for the feeling I had when I was dominant in collegiate nationals, where I was the apex player there, and I was winning multiple national titles. I won 3 collegiate nationals and U.S. amateurs. Right. And when I was back then, I didn't ever really care who I played. I just didn't invest any resources in that at all. And I for me back then, being in that place was what was conducive to me playing my best. Yeah. The challenge of coming back into competitive play and playing against the best players in the world is that who everybody is. You know what I mean? And so you have to kind of go through the iterative process a little bit and get comfortable with that idea now being at the forefront, where who everybody is, what they're capable of, and crossing that mental threshold where you can just let that go and get back to playing just for yourself, who you are, being yourself, maximally represented in your game in that arena. That's where I find peace, and that's where I find like the place where I can be the most authentic version of myself. Yeah. And then at that point, then I can get to the best parts of my game. And so I found that a little bit now at Derby, and that was kind of probably the
breakthrough moment. Yeah. So is it in sports you see guys who go from the collegiate level to the pro level or whatever, and they always talk about in action sports like football, whatever, they talk about the speed of the game and how it catches you off guard. You have to find a way to slow things down. Mm-hmm. Is that applicable to getting into a pool tournament and playing top players match after match?
Yeah, I would say, especially with certain players who are very tempo driven, right? Like Josh is a Formula One race car. He wants to just fly. And if guy like that gets control and gets the tempo going, then he's going to blow anybody out of the water. That's just how he wins. You know, he's a force, and that's in that regard. For me, I'm more of like a methodical, like in the vein of like a Buddy Hall, you know, who wants to control himself and his process, and that's a great matchup actually against somebody who's very tempo driven, because when a Buddy Hall gets control, you know, Earl's got to sit in his chair and stew, and you know, like he can't wait to get out of his chair fast enough. And usually when they get out of the chair fast enough, they rush, and they tend to be prone to error. Yeah, and so I've always liked playing fast players like Josh, because you know, I know that if I get control and if I'm calm and doing my thing, then I can just, like I had a match with Jeffrey Ignacio a few years ago at the U.S. Open. And he was the first player that I brushed up against that was an 800 level player who played so fast that it was like affecting me. Like I felt like that desire to want to run and try and catch up, and he was affecting me. And I had to mantra myself during the match and say, you know, my table, my pace, my table, my pace, my table, my pace. And then once that you say that enough times, you get into your rhythm, then you forget about anything else and you just play again. You have to have a lot of self-assurance when you play that way, because a lot of players will view more methodical players as being, you know, not as good as, or because they don't play off the seat of their pants, you know, like a Josh does, you know, and it's fun to watch somebody like him play. You have to be self-assured enough to say none of that matters, because my job is to play my best and to do what supports that for me. And so if that's a little bit more methodical, and then maybe that opens up into a gear where you get into a gear and you hit a high rhythm patch, you know what I mean? And you can definitely play in that space. But I know what it costs now against the best player in the world to make one error. It could cost you the set, you know? So I'm not eager to make a mistake against, you know, to do something, to rush into missing a ball against the best player in the world, you know?
Nate?
Yeah.
I guess my question, obviously you went just for the 9-ball, right? You didn't play the one pocket and the banks. If there's one knock on Derby City Classic this year, it's that it's just too much pool for the duration of the event. I mean, you shouldn't be playing till 9 a.m. the next day to finish up an event. You shouldn't be playing till 5 a.m. in the morning to get up again at 7 a.m. to play another match, right? It's just there's just too much pool. Do you think that it was an advantage for you coming in fresh for the 9-ball? Do you think that was harder for you to like get that level of focus that, you know, everybody else has been training already basically for a week at this point? I guess what's the pros and cons of coming into an event that's on event number 3 already?
Yeah. I mean, obviously those guys are dialed in on the conditions, and you can't really account, you know, they're going to have an advantage when it comes to playing, you know, multiple disciplines. By the time you get to the 9-ball, everybody's in full punch. You know, they're really playing out of their mind pool. So it's a disadvantage for somebody coming in the 9-ball, because you're going to get the best game, you know, from everyone. But the good thing about the schedule is that it gives you no choice. Like you're going to play another match. You're going to play another, like you better be ready, you know what I mean? And so it kind of forces you to get ready or get eliminated, you know? So the uptick is very quick. I know for me, my priority going in was rest, because I didn't sleep well the night before I traveled. I only got like 5 hours of sleep. And then traveling over there, I developed like a congestion and, you know, stuff right away.
The airport flu.
So I don't know what it was, but it definitely got me. But I had a Thursday where I didn't get scheduled. I was TBD, and then they just pushed me to a following day. So I had a full day off. So I got some practice time in at the venue just to feel acclimated and get some stuff in after my first match. And then it was just go straight to bed, you know, and take medicine and hydrate and rest and do all the things that I could do for me to get myself ready. Because I know, you know, the rest is going to be at a premium when it comes to the zombie day, you know, the 24-hour walk through the graveyard, you know, it's basically what everybody's doing. But it is really brutal. I mean, you'll see all the players talk about how they're still, you know, it's not fun. It is, you know, I am somebody who prioritizes sleep and rest and all those things for myself. And, you know, just one day of that, you know, one super zombie day like that, it's like it really takes a toll on you. I can't imagine what guys like Federer and you know, Josh and all those guys who made deep runs, like you can't get enough sleep. You know, it really throws you off, and it's not fair to them. You know, it's kind of a gross
Now I
thing
see
to have
why
to do, but
performance enhancing drugs were always used so much at this event in the past.
I guess. I mean, I'm never going to do that for myself. You know, electrolytes and protein bars and exogenous ketones and stuff
And
like that
Magicmine.
to try and get myself, you know, and then I could have used a little bit more of that for sure.
Did you ever get the Magicmines I sent you?
Oh. I did. Thank you. Yeah, I tried them. They're great. Yeah, they're really great.
There you go. Well, maybe this. Go ahead.
I have a photo that I took. I meant to post, but I was busy.
Not a big deal, right? It's just, you know, not a big deal. Josh, who?
Yeah. Well, you know, I will say that the reaction has been really overwhelming, and I've gotten a lot of really like beautiful messages from people who have found inspiration or motivation, or you know, just having seen that is a possibility, you know, and so it's really humbling. And I just want to say thanks to everybody who's kind of
it's cool to see it. People love stories like that, and you know,
I mean,
you're a good
the way that
storyteller
Josh
on top of it, so it makes it a good narrative.
The way that Josh kind of gets into his like little gear, you kind of do forget that he is beatable. I mean, even amongst his peers. I mean, we're talking like Jason and Shane and Fedor and FSR and players like that. I mean, he can still. I mean, he's one of the few players that he has a gear where it doesn't matter how good you are, you still can't beat him, and you kind of forget that he can be beat sometimes.
Yeah, I think, you know, in sports especially, like it's easy to get habitualized to the norm. And Josh is somebody who's done a great job of establishing the norm that he's dominant. And when somebody goes on a run where they start doing that and other players fail to beat that person, it almost becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy where they carry the baggage of, you know, he's lost, you know, he's beat me 4 times or 5 times or whatever. And they almost kind of like expect it to happen. I have the benefit of, you know, this was the first time Josh and I had played, and, you know, I've seen him go through and beat friends of mine who are world-class players, double hill the last few years. Like he beat Oscar at the International, he beat Tyler at the US Open double hill. You know, he's beaten Darren in spots where Darren had him by, you know, he just kind of, he worms out. And, you know, to be the one that kind of gets across the line against somebody like that is awesome, you know, because it confirms and validates, you know, what my mission is and what my approach is, and that, you know, you don't play pool on paper. You know, it's nice to have averages and statisticians, but the outliers are there for a reason. And I think I was less than a 2% chance to win that match because of the Fargo disparity. But, you know, none of that really matters at the end of the day. If you have control, nobody can beat anybody that's in the chair, you know, like you can't beat somebody from the chair. So my job is to just execute and do what I do best and let the outcomes take care of themselves, and to not like, you know, not get into the external stuff. You know, the external stuff is where you trap yourself. That's where I almost lost the match, you know, letting myself fall victim to the, oh, you know, I'm going to beat Josh 9-5 and all this other stuff, and people are going to build a statue outside of the stadium. You know what I mean? Like stupid stuff that just doesn't make the 7-ball, run out, and do your job. You know, that's really it. You know, so it's hard to do that. You know, Mike, to your point, there's so many traps that you can fall for mentally that it takes a lot of, you know, just mental preparation and strength to kind of ignore the clutter, ignore the noise. And of course, you know, somebody tells me afterwards, oh, by the way, Emily Fraser's watching, you know, all these people from Matchroom are watching. I have no clue because I'm not, I'm locked in.
So does this change, you know, did you find yourself thinking further ahead than you had before Derby in terms of your potential, your commitment, your expectations going forward for, like, let's say, the rest of this year or into next year, anything like that? Or do you have a pretty specific plan?
No, I would say this is the year 3 of my 5-year plan, you know, and I've I know what I'm capable of, and I've seen flashes of what that capability is, and now a larger group of people has seen what that capability is. I think there's a lot of room for improvement for me. I could have played a better set against Josh, and but now I'm in the process of normalizing that feeling, of what it's like to be in those kind of higher pressure moments against those players, and that's really what I want. So my goal is just to kind of get back to work on my training, continue to review. I'm trying to get a hold of the copy of that match from Zach Goldsmith. I know it's the way they ran the tournament makes it harder for like the digital pool, direct access to that file. So I'm desperate to try and get a hold of that match and a couple others and just kind of do what I normally do, which is, I'll break down the match to see where the errors were, why, because I know where they are and I know why. And then just familiarize myself with, okay, there was a subconscious reason why I shied away from something or I went in a certain direction. What's the reason for that? Why was I uncomfortable with that decision and did this? And then work on that thing that's uncomfortable so that it's just a familiar friend. It's just another part of my game that's, coming into fruition and continuing to develop and to be refined so that the next time I'm more prepared and ready, to be able to beat Josh and then be able to beat him. Because really, Josh, especially at that event, he's setting the standard for what's possible, right? I mean, he won 3. Yes, I beat him in the 9-ball. I know Justin Hall maybe beat him in a set in the banks. And then, Shane beat him in the 1 pocket. But, it's not just about beating him one time. You got to be able to beat him twice in every discipline. That's just the mindset that you have to have if you're going to go there to not just beat him, right, but go win the tournament. So I think about, could this opportunity that happened to me, how could it have been better? Well, it could have been better if I would have gone deeper in the tournament and drawn him again and beat him again. Like that would have been something.
Well, then you're Alex Pagulayan.
That would have been like, hey,
Alex Pagulayan's like the only guy that can beat Josh these days.
Well, it's funny because I admire Alex's approach, and that's a lot of like, the approach that I have really, which is like beat him in the in between stuff, not just to outshoot him, not just to out break and run thing, but in those little situations where you can gain control and make him pay for an error, that's the stuff where you really gain yardage, and gain control with a guy like him. So
you're a professional, not a professional pool player, a working stiff professional.
Yeah.
I guess part of this probably goes into the next 2 years of your 5-year plan, but what does that entail in terms of, dedication to the game, devotion to practice, expectations, things like that, and that balance? Because now your expectations are you're going to be in there swinging against guys who, play 7 days a week, 10 hours a day, and have everything at their disposal.
Yeah. I have to be better than them. I have to be better. That's the challenge for me. I don't get to play this game on easy mode. I get to play it on expert, super hard mode, which means I get less time, less resources, less ability, which means that the quality of the focus and time that goes into my table time and goes into my training has to be
Is that an
above
advantage?
elite level. I think so. I think I'll be more prepared than they will because they have the luxury of immersion, which is a beautiful thing. A lot of people think it's kind of easy, but I'm playing the game on expert mode, and there's nobody that thinks that I can climb the mountain. But I mentioned this on Dogginet, and I wanted to reiterate it here that that I'm here to climb the mountains that they say that you can't climb, because that's just the kind of person that I am. If there's a mountain they say you can't get to, you can't climb, you can't achieve, there's a lot of people in our chat, even in our circle of friends, who are very comfortable and casual with telling you what your limitations are and what your ceilings are and what you're capable of, without any knowledge of who you are as a person. They have no clue what's in your heart. They have no clue what's in your mind. They have no clue how much it means to you. But they're very comfortable with telling you what your limitations are. So for people who are watching and see a moment like this, I would hope that you realize that those limitations are an illusion, and they're only real if you accept them. So my job is to continue to focus on being the maximum version of myself that I can be, and continue to take opportunities where I get a chance to compete against the best players of the world, in the world, and hopefully express the fullness of what I see inside of myself and what other people see in me, and win these tournaments. That's really what
Raymond Linares, free
So-
solo pool.
exactly. Yeah, I'm
So-
out there unhinged on
no,
the
not
fabric
anything.
of reality. Yeah.
Good, Nate.
So, well, I was going to say, Mike, are you still good to go, or do you need?
Yeah,
to,
I got a couple more minutes in me. Yeah.
Okay. So you mentioned your 5-year plan. You're on year 3 of your 5-year plan. What do the next 2 years entail for you?
Yeah, I mean, I have a limited amount of time that I can apply vacation time to for this work, to be able to go and compete. So, I'm going to prioritize the U.S. Open, obviously, as an American player. That's like the crown jewel for us, and ranking points, So I'm going to be pretty much fully invested on the resources that I have available to me to go compete at Matchroom ranking events and continue to accumulate points. So I earned 1,400 points, at this event. And, it's a great start to the year, So I'm going to be going to the Amazing Billiards event in Boston. I'm going to go to the event Christopher Lee Wilburn is hosting in Virginia. Obviously, I'll go to the U.S. Open and continue to try and make dents and make waves and earn enough points to make the whole conversation about Mosconi as interesting as possible. My end goal is to be on the Mosconi Cup team. That's something it was the I remember in 2002 or 2001 I watched a shot where Corey played that incredible jacked up draw shot off the back. I was just like, how do you do that? And so I want to do that. And then I've been a big fan ever since. I have a lot of respect for the American guys, and I've watched them kind of live out the dream. And, life for me took me in a different direction at the point where I was starting to creep up and really start playing world-class pool. And I had to step away for, 6-7 years, And then now I'm on the way back, and it's been a really humbling and painful experience for me to go through emotionally some setbacks in life, and have to sit back and swallow the pill of not being available when opportunities came up for me, and watch those opportunities go to other players. And, in a way that really prepared me and kind of made me stronger, mentally. It kind of restructured and reprioritized pool in my life in a way that, yes, it's important. It's something that I really want to do, but, my family's important, and, life and work are important. And until pool can provide a quality of life for me that supports my daughter, then, I made the right decision in making the sacrifices that I made, that I had to put down the thing that I loved. And then now it makes everything that much more,
right. Satisfying for sure.
satisfying.
How old are you, Ray? 36.
36.
I have one question for Mike quick. Has it ever happened where you being the historian you are, has there ever been a person with a full-time job that played on a Mosconi Cup team, either side?
John DeToro, 96. But there was a player strike.
Well,
I think,
I mean,
at
the
that
top,
time.
the PBT players were not playing in it at all.
Yeah.
And I actually I didn't know that John DeToro worked full time. I thought that he was kind of a part time guy, but yeah. So it's it doesn't happen often, but there's no reason that it can't.
Is that your motivation, Ray? You'd be the first working skip out there running racks.
I was just going to say you're going to be the first guy to show up to Mosconi Cup with a note from your teacher.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the plan. The good thing is my boss knows about.
So do you take this same very cerebral, analytical approach to your job?
Yeah, I think I do video production, and so I'm an Emmy award-winning filmmaker, and I have an AFI award for some documentary work. And a lot of that, especially early on in film school, I was doing a lot of self-teaching, because I would look at who the best people were in the industry and figure out what they did to make themselves unique and stand out. And so there was a lot of actually me and my group of filmmaking friends, like we were the ones that influenced a lot of the curriculum that ended up going down the line and changing because of some of our impacts. So, you know, I take a little bit of a blend of like analytical and just creative intuition when it comes to filmmaking. And, you know, I have smart people behind me that I've worked on stuff with that I trust, and we've kind of collaborated a lot on a lot of cool projects. So I have a lot of technical information and knowledge for sure, you know, when it comes to the crafting side of the imaging process. And then I just try and apply that technical information in creative and fun, novel ways. And there's definitely overlap in that approach in playing pool.
Yeah. You created a documentary of your last 2 years.
Seems like a fun way to do it.
Mike, you there?
Yes.
So
yeah, your video is just going out a little bit on us, Ray, but
yeah,
it's still,
sorry.
Still good.
That's right. It's good.
Cool.
That's right.
No, you're,
That's good.
So, I mean, I guess, yeah, those are the questions I had for Ray. I guess, Mike, do you have anything else that you wanted to talk to him about the Derby side?
Not about the Derby. Well, I mean, you know, I guess not really about the Derby side. Just again, I'm more interested in the thought process and the mindset, you know, of what, you know, someone goes through when they're in a situation like you were in, because everybody's got to go through it for the first time.
Yeah.
And that's always kind of fascinated me, because you see someone like Josh get to the point where it's, you know, these situations are so commonplace for him that doesn't make the game any easier, and it doesn't make winning any easier. But just knowing how to handle every situation and being to the point where virtually no situation is going to overwhelm you ever again. Right. The process to get there, to me, is really interesting.
Yeah, and Josh is such a terrific player. You know, like he's in the competition cycle at that level so high, so often that, you know, it's very rare that he finds a situation that's uncomfortable for him.
Right.
So for me, you know, whenever I'm competing against guys like that, I try and find opportunities where, you know, I can put them in situations that are a little bit abnormal, you know, and you know, that's usually where, you know, you can squeeze innings out, and really you just want to get the extra 1 or 2 innings. You know, that's really all you need, as long as you're doing your job and executing and running out. So there's a lot of groundwork that goes in. Like, you have to be able to run out open tables when they come to you. You have to be able to go through your process, have good mechanics. All those things are like foundational. They're like must-haves. Then it's, where can I squeeze out the extra advantage? You know, and
so, you know, people talk a lot about, you know, when you're learning, when you're coming up, whatever, watching other players and watching what they do and watching how they handle certain situations and learning from them. Is that something that you do, and can you do it, or do you do it at all during a match, or is this something you would have to do as a railbird because your process is different during a match?
I used to be like, I used to watch a lot of matches growing up to get, like, I absorbed a lot of AccuStats, a lot of, you know, match play, to get a feeling for what the vernacular is, you know what I mean? And then after a certain amount of time, it became less that. Like, I watch much less pool now, and I'm really worried, you know, focused on kind of some of the system information that I'm kind of in. I'm working with an unpublished system from my sensei that, you know, just deals with pool in a different way. And so there's been a kind of a very hearty uptake, you know, of like integration, you know, blending math information with my, you know, 15 years prior of, you know, intuition, and kind of like, how do I put those two things together? And that's been a painful, difficult process. But I'm at this point now where I'm able to, you know, I've found myself in that, and I can blend those two things together. And now I feel like I have advantages in certain scenarios that the other guys just don't have, because they don't have a model to express some of the things that I'm able to do with, in a concise, non-voodoo-y way. You know, there's a lot of vagary in how they describe patterns and positions and where the cue ball is going. So for me, I have certainty on where the cue ball is going in a lot of scenarios, and that's reassuring. Like that 2 ball that Josh left me, I knew where that ball was going to end up, and I knew exactly the ball hit that I was going to take, and I knew how much throw was going to apply to the ball, and all that stuff. So that's stuff that in high pressure situations, I felt no pressure in that moment.
Right.
That was a very reassuring kind of thing. So now I'm just kind of in this integration process of refining, and I have a plan of things that I'm going to work on and continue to make stronger and hopefully develop so that it's more fleshed out, as I go in deeper runs in bigger tournaments. So, yeah.
Great stuff. I've enjoyed hearing about it. It was fun to watch and fun to follow all the commentary afterwards and whatever. So I got to duck out, but congratulations to you and thanks for all the insight. It's been interesting, and we'll look forward to following the rest of the journey.
Thanks, Mike. I really appreciate it. I was glad you got to join today. So
yeah, absolutely. All right, Nate, thank you.
Yeah, always. Thanks, Mike. Ray, I guess. So 2 years ago, the kind of everyone's darling was Greg Hogan. He was kind of like the Mosconi Cup underdog, and last year it was BJ Ushery. Do you think that you could take that mantle up this year?
Yeah, I mean, the Mosconi Cup is something I want, obviously, as an American. It's like, the top of the ladder for any of us. So my job is just to keep working on myself and improving and putting myself in these positions to prove what I can do against guys like Josh. Obviously, saying that you have a winning record against Josh Viller is a great feather in the cap as an American, and I'm not sure many others can really say that. Waking up today, so I can only focus on myself and focus on how I respond in these opportunities, and hopefully get more of those opportunities. I've got other players on Team Europe that I got to beat. You know what I mean? Just to continue to share that. But I've had a lot of big wins. The last couple of years, I beat Jose Alberto Delgado last year. 9-5 at the Amazing Billiards tournament. I've had big wins against top Filipinos and 800 players, and so hopefully this just continues to trend in the right direction for me, and I keep improving. So,
sure.
Yeah.
Well, we're at that point of the podcast where I got to give some shout outs to our sponsors. So you said you did get some Magicmine. What'd you think of it?
I thought the Magicmine stuff was pretty good. I obviously don't have enough of it to have a longer kind of form taste sample of it, but I do like those kind of products. I have some stuff that I take on my just daily nutrition stuff that is along those same lines. And then but before we kind of close up, I did want to just say thank you to my cue maker. Dominic Aragi built me my custom cue set, and I use those to play at Derby and to go as deep as I did, and beat Josh. The cue that I have, I call it Excalibur. And it's been a wonderful cue, the best cue I've ever owned. So it's been great to kind of see it get attention and hold up for me. So
yeah, that's awesome. Well, Ray and I trust Magicmine, and you can too. Whenever you need that little bit of extra focus, Magicmine has got your back. It has all of the nutrients and all of the different ingredients that help you with not only your focus, but your focus over time. Because obviously it doesn't do you any good to focus 2 to 3 minutes at a time. It helps you if you can focus 2 to 3 hours at a time, which helps. So that's fun. During January, which I guess is over now, but they had I think you can still probably get this. Just go to magicmine.com/Jan, queue it up, and put in code QITUP20 and get yourself your subscription to Magicmine for 75% off, and join the focus train that we get, which is awesome. I like it. It's fun stuff.
Good stuff.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess, Ray, I don't know. Do you need to get going? You want to wrap it up here? I mean, we haven't really discussed too much about the Derby besides your venture at it, but
yeah, I have about 20 minutes. So if you want to add anything else or you have any questions, I can totally take those. But
sure. Well, I mean, I guess obviously we're talking about Josh Viller just as much, almost just as much as we're talking about you because of his domination at the event.
Sure.
Being on site, did anybody else kind of stand out to you that you thought needs to get highlighted?
Yeah, Johnny Mora had a pretty amazing tournament, and he probably played the best pool against me of anybody in the event. We played a set. I think it was around 5 or 6 or 7, around in that area, where he didn't miss a ball against me, but he did break dry three times and broke his scratch once. But I broke and scratched 3 times. I was the most unproductive on my break, and that's kind of why I think I lost that match. But Johnny played a tremendous match and then marched his way, through the zombie graveyard all the way to 3rd place. So he played unbelievable. Vitali played really solid, the whole tournament. I don't think he's gotten enough attention and flowers for how good he played, but the guy really held up and held his demeanor. He's so structured. I think it was impressive to watch him play. And then obviously Pegis was on a
Pierce
mission,
was just incredible, right?
on a mission. Just really, really came with some high level pool, and he's been investing on his side a lot, and been putting in the hours and gambling and getting matched up and doing all the things that he can do.
And growing a beard.
Yeah, I mean, the beard is the key. You assert dominance over somebody's
That's what I'm.
with a heavy beard. It's a tough game.
That's what I'm working on.
I'm proud of you.
I think
man. You're gonna put in the
Yeah,
work.
I'm thinking if I let it grow out for about like 17 more years, I'll be half of what you got there.
Perfect. That's all you need. One step at a time.
Yeah.
So yeah, those guys really stood out for me. Johnny, tough player, and really grinding. And the fact that he's playing as high of a level as he is, left-handed, is pretty special. We can't ever not say that enough. So yeah.
Yeah, the knowledge never goes away. It's more or less getting your body to do what it already knows how to do, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah. And he's really intense. He's an intense player too. People don't.
Yeah, he is.
For that, Yeah, he really grinds hard.
If you ever want a story, I mean, I know it's never a great idea to just walk up to players at events, but John has one of the most interesting stories I think I've ever heard from a pool player. The guy has been through the ringer more times than he can probably count, and the fact that he's where he is in his career, it's testament to not only his character but his drive and his motivation.
And he's quite the handsome chap. I'll say that as well.
Okay. He's a fun dude. He's a good guy to be around. And he ended up getting 12th in the one pocket too. I mean, it's not like he can't play one pocket, but you don't think of him as a one pocket. I think you got to give a shout out to Justin Hall as well. I mean, the guy's got got so much talent. It's gross. I mean, I look at him as being. I mean, and again, it always sounds disrespectful whenever I say it, but that's what you. I mean, that's how much respect I have for his game. I think he's the biggest wasted talent that the U.S. has. I mean, it's sad as that is to say.
Justin's best game is probably Banks in one pocket, and he showed out, and I think he gave Viller his first loss in that tournament, and then Viller came back and beat him in the finals. And I didn't get to watch the finals, but I heard kind of he was up early and had a chance to win. So, it's tough, man. These world champions, if you don't cut the head off the snake, you don't get many other chances. You give them extra innings. You can't really do that. So.
And sometimes even if you do cut the head off the snake, 2 more come out in its spot.
And you better be ready to fight a Hydra, So it's tough. But
yeah. Cool. So I wanted to give a shout out to Justin Hall as well, because I thought it's just one of those players that you don't see him. He pops up 2-3 times a year, and you're like, oh yeah, I kind of forgot about that guy. He's always at the end of a tournament that he plays in. So
that's awesome.
I don't know.
I just wanted to say thanks also to Matt Yville. He says that the whole match is on the Calcutta Kid YouTube channel. So I'm gonna track that down because I've been trying to get a hold of it. I have the full match where I beat Wolford, and the match I beat Lucas, but I don't have the filler match. So if he's got that, then I'll track it down. So thanks, Matt, for that. I really appreciate it.
It was also nice to see. Speaking of a pretty good finish, it's probably I'd be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to Danny Olsson as well. Another kind of U.S. player that kind of goes a little bit under the radar, only pops up every now and then, but dude's got a lot of talent.
Very solid looking guy. Is very professional look over the table and stuff. So yeah, it's great to see some new faces. I guess you said me and Danny and BJ were all at the tail end for the
Yeah.
American-born players. So that's awesome. And I know Federer went a few more rounds before he kind of ran out of steam. So it's yeah.
Yeah,
Great.
so 12th place for the 9-ball had you, Roberto Gomez, Danny Olsson, and BJ Usheri.
Cool.
Pretty incredible finish for Danny. And then
Yeah.
16th had a handful of Americans: Chris Reinhold, Shane Wolford. I'm not sure who Mark Estiola. Yeah,
He's a Filipino player.
Estiola. Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Great
another one of those Filipinos.
Great player. Yeah, great player.
And then
Young guy.
Konstantin Dovladze. I'm not sure
Never-
on that either.
Yeah.
But he ended up in 16th place too.
Cool.
16th place had, Levan Corteza, Conrad Mieszko, Jean Salim, Alex Montpellier,
Great
Mark
player.
S. Yeah. Really, really good players.
Yeah.
And then a couple more Americans: Sergio Rivas in 25th, D. Atkins, Scott Frost, Max Eberly, Michael Yednek, Kevin Guimond, Nathan Childress. I don't know who Kevin is, but Nathan Childress is a younger
Kevin's-
player. I think is he? Nathan is from the New England area, right? Like Connecticut, maybe?
Virginia.
Is he? Okay.
Yeah. Virginia.
Another great player.
Yeah, great young player for sure. Coming up.
Yeah.
And he played good all around too. He played good in the banks in the one pocket too. So
Oh yeah, I did see him towards the end, right? He had 12th in the one pocket and 23rd in the bank pool. So actually,
solid.
it's like he probably got himself some pretty good master of the table results. 22nd. I mean, that's
strong for somebody his age for sure.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. What's your takeaways from the event? I know that there's a lot of negatives. There's a few positives, but mostly it's negatives coming out of the event because it's for the second year in a row. I mean, it's finishing probably 12 hours later than it should. What's your overall takeaway of the event?
I don't like the cue ball they used. I think they should stick to the Matchroom measle ball. That just Aramith black measle ball. They used a diamond ball, and it really affected like the break quite a bit. People were just unable to get the one on the side and without having a stun hit the break. It changes the break altogether. So, not ideal, I don't think, that ball for a Matchroom ranking event. So I'd love to see just a standardization of the cue ball across all the events so that there's not this pick a cue ball, any cue ball, let's play with the red circle tomorrow, blue circle. It kind of shouldn't be that way, I don't think. But the Derby is the Derby. It's kind of like, there's no illusions as to what you're going to get into, right? Like everybody knows it's a gauntlet. It's a grind. It's brutal. It's not, it's not a fun thing to have to go through or recover from. So yeah, they need an extra day or they're going to lose players, I think, as far as pros are concerned, but that's up to them if that matters. I'd love to see them use a different system to track the tournament, like a digital
that system is
like that.
disgusting. It's awful.
Yeah,
it's honestly, it's the worst. It's the worst thing in this industry. And I don't say that lightly. I mean, it is literally awful.
Yeah, I feel like a good system through digital pool make the matches trackable, linking with all the digital pool technology that's there, make everything kind of more seamless, and probably get messages out quicker, and people don't have to hover around forever to figure out when they play. So those would be the only constructive criticisms that I would have. Besides that, it's it's a gathering of the best players in the world. It's a celebration really of a multidisciplinary pool. Eventually, I'd love to play all the events, but I'm a working stiff, so I gotta take care of my vacation time, and I can get another 2 tournaments out of it.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you play them all, you lose two more events down the line probably.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I can't afford to do that. So,
yeah. So you ended up 12th place.
Sweet.
Money wise, did you break even on the event? Did you make some money? What'd you do?
I probably made a little bit of money, but it's it's peanuts really compared to what you're putting out. I booked my travel there with points that I had from work and stuff, so that helps. And then I split an Airbnb with my good buddy Matt Katie from South Dakota, and it was Nayuki, myself, Demetrius was there. I saw Demetrius maybe once or twice the whole trip because he was just on the opposite side of the schedule. Poor guy was grinding so hard. So I hope he's okay and recovered because he got sick towards the end of the trip also. But
he got sick at the U.S. Open last year too.
Yeah, it's so tough, man. So and then Nayuki Oi also had a really wonderful tournament. He finished I think like top 8 or something like that. He was he's awesome. Yeah. So congrats to Nayuki, congrats to Johnny Mora and Demetrius for surviving that week. But we had a beautiful Airbnb. So, we have a kitchen. So I didn't spend any really money on food and, I went grocery shopping one time and just cooked all my meals for myself for the day and protein bars and, electrolytes and that kind of stuff. It's kind of like, I think the way to go. So,
sure. Yeah. Oh yeah, if you're going to grind that hard, it's nice to actually put something in your stomach that isn't 48% fat and
worth it.
52% grease. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, part of the grind is just taking care of your body along the way, right?
Yeah, that was a big priority for me, is just getting my rest and not really getting distracted in any of the action room stuff or anything like that. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, cool. Congratulations, Ray.
Thanks,
I think we could probably close it out here.
Yeah,
it's a pretty impressive feat.
Working on it, man.
And on to the next event, huh?
Hopefully more to come. Yeah, we'll see how it.
What's your next event on the calendar?
Probably the next one will be the ranking event in Boston at Amazing Billiards. That's the one that I have on the calendar.
March.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
March 12th-ish, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we'll give a shout out to Bo. I think we're going to bring him onto the podcast actually to talk about that event. So
yeah, he's great. Bo's awesome. Super nice guy.
Yep. So I guess we'll close it out there. But first, let's give a shout out to the people that make this podcast possible. Jacoby Custom Cues, thank you so much for your continued ongoing support. Littman Lights, Michael Littman does an amazing job of getting some of the best lights out there. For my money, I think it's the best all-around light that you can get. As far as just ease to use and the light output, I think it's perfect for playability. Horo Tips, one of the best. I sent you down some Horo Tips too, didn't I?
Yeah, I have them.
Did you try any of those yet?
Not yet. I'm waiting on getting a backup brake shaft from Dominic. When I get that, then I'm gonna try it out. So
sure. Make sure to put that White Storm on. You're gonna love that thing. That's a jump tip. So don't put it on your brake tip. Put it on your jump tip. You're gonna love that thing though. That thing's incredible.
Cool. Yeah.
And Digital Pool. Obviously, we've been talking about you all this podcast, trying to get you to do better things with their schedule, right? So, Salado Player App, Billiards Digest. Mike's not here, but shout out to Mike Panozzo, who runs Billiard Digest. Go over and get yourself a subscription to that, and then Insight Performance Coaching, which you partake in as well.
I did, yeah. I worked with Tara. She actually just messaged me a little bit ago, congratulating me on stuff. So I'm working with a local guy now, Devori Edgecombe, who's been really helpful. He's just closer to me, and I can kind of get more iterations with him on a closer level. So, but Tara's great, and she's been helpful for sure over year 1 and 2. So.
Yeah, she's incredible. All right, so with that, we'll throw. We'll also give a shout out to the Patreons: Dave Wiersma, Mo Bashir, Cody Wettig, Ed Ladawi, Matt Poland. Thank you all for your continued support with the podcast, and yeah, I guess that's it for the week. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll catch you next week.